Societal and political trends are rapidly breaking down the family that once was the cornerstone of our great American culture. At FIT, we know you cannot get this information on your own, so we'll bring it to your TV every single week. And we always invite all opposing views. Welcome to another edition of FIT TV. Our courts are running away with our families and the very soul of America. That is you and me, our lives, our free will, our purpose, all of this affecting our heritage, our culture, our children, and their future. This is not what I want for America. If we cannot see the signs up ahead, strike down the signs that are in the way. We are stalled by questionable judicial authority in the courts. Supreme Court Justice Scalia was barely dead an hour before the world stopped to claim the legal prowess that SCOTUS has over us all. Scalia himself has said, "I don't know why anyone would give 9 lawyers the power to decide the fate of the American people." He was right. We give our legal system and the judges who preside over us way too much power. I have to discuss this with me, President for the Americans for Legal Reform, Gary Jacobs, and he's also a family law reformer. To get this program off and running, what we'll do is we're going to run a clip that tells us a little bit about the judges and what corruption there is from the movie The Divorce Court. So go ahead and run that clip.
When you go to divorce court, you'll find the judges can do whatever they want.
There is no law in family court. There's only what the judge wants to do, period.
All kinds of basic mechanisms that exist in the criminal and civil courts in this country don't exist in the family courts. In a family courtroom, the judge dominates the proceeding.
In my world, where there's no jury, you are the decision maker. I'm more comfortable with that.
How much time do you have to devote, would you say, to each case?
On a typical Monday or Tuesday, I would have a calendar of anywhere from 15 to 40 cases.
The average case, in all fairness, is maybe 5 to 10 minutes.
The Court of Appeal in San Diego ruled that actually judges did not have to read the pleadings before they made their rulings. So now it's a local rule. If you want a judge to actually read the pleading, you've got to make a special request beforehand. Not too many people know that.
It's not for the father to decide. It's not for the mother to decide. It's for the judge to decide after the judge has weighed all the factors.
All of us make decisions. You decided what color socks you were going to wear this morning, what you're going to have for lunch. But a judge makes decisions for other people. And you make 100 of those a day. And if you make a bad one, you just make another one.
My father was a lawyer who handled a general practice, and he occasionally would take me to court with him. When I was about 14 or 15, he had a case, and the woman was on the stand, and he's boring in on her, and he's boring in on her, and he says, "And didn't you on July 5th have sexual relations with your husband?" And she breaks down crying and sobbing, and I'm looking at this, and I said, I got to get into this. This is great.
All judges have the same middle name, God.
One of the things that's really different about family court and criminal court is that the judges in criminal court are more a part of the process of what's going on in terms of whether something is fair or not fair, and they're managing the process a little bit more. In family court, the judges are more like kings. They just rule with immunity, right? There's no...
Yeah, I tell people all the time, if you can get into criminal court, get into criminal court. It's much better. And that's not to say that they don't make bad decisions. We know they make it all the time, but they make much more bad decisions in family court. In family court, they don't even follow the laws because there's judicial immunity, so you can't sue the judge.
But they're not bound by the Constitution. It's like...
there's no accountability. And let me tell you, and we're on TV right now, you're going to show this. Our chief judge in Suffolk County, Judge Randall Hinrichs, is corrupt. When the leader of the court is corrupt, what do you expect is going to happen to everybody else? They're going to all fall in line. Suffolk County breeds corruption. The politicians put in the judges, so it's a political appointment. And let me tell you, and there are some judges that are good. In fact, Judge Poulos, Deborah Poulos is one of the newer ones, and we've had a little bit of experience with her, and I've court watched for her and advocated for some people, and she's fair. Let me tell you, I wouldn't be surprised if 2 or 3 years she's either removed or they destroy her too, because most of the when the culture is they promote these disgusting corrupt judges. Judge Marion McNulty, a piece of crap. The woman should be in jail for her corruption. Judge Blydenberg, he passed away a few years ago, didn't shed a tear for him. He was a disgusting, corrupt judge, and there's a whole bunch of them. But when it's led by the person who's still in there is corrupt, they're all going to fall into line underneath them.
Isn't it effective? Thanks for saying that, by the way. Isn't it true that because the political connections are behind the scenes, so to speak, that a lawyer who may have a connection with a judge may be favored in a decision?
Of course, there's no rhyme or reason. They do it, but I remember when I was naive to this, as most people are when they get in. I remember getting the judge, and I see the judge's name. I say, great, Donald. I got a guy. I'm sitting good because he's going to understand. He's
like the father.
He's probably a father, and he's going to understand that I have to be fair to this man. It doesn't matter. They all fall into place, which is destroy everybody. And at the end of the day, the mother usually wins in Suffolk County. Destroy everybody. And I say to people, they come in, they go, "Well, I'm going to win." You don't know if you're going to win because guess what? You want to win if you're a father, you might get lucky. And your judge may be connected to the lawyer. Absolutely, judges. Lawyers are influenced judges. They're friends. They're human beings. Right. And because there's no accountability, who cares?
Should there be an election process at all?
Well, I think judges should be, number one, I think they should be appointed by a committee. It should be removed from politics. There should be people like you and I. There should be lay people. There should be lawyers. But it shouldn't be a political process.
Layperson is a great idea.
But most importantly, Chris, they should be reviewed before they get to keep their position. Let me tell you, if you have a judge right now, I remember Judge McNulty one day, she was bragging in the courthouse, "Mr. Jacobs, I'm a good judge. I get upheld on appeal almost 90% of the time." I said, wow, that means 10% of people in your court have their rights violated. And we're not talking the guy lost a little bit of money. We're talking about people lost their kids. Yeah. Their families were destroyed. Of course. It's just like putting people in jail when they say, "Oh, we have the best political system, and not the judicial system in the country. Yeah. There is no, in the world, there is no better." But we find out that we have at least 10% of people in prison didn't commit the crime. That's disgusting.
It's a sad testimony to the state that we have to, we can't trust.
But we allow it. We don't put these politicians in jail. Anybody watching this show, I don't care. I've placed calls myself to the FBI. They do these investigations. They're half-assed. Go into it. I'm saying it on TV, on a recording. The chief judge of Suffolk County is corrupt. Come after me. Sue me. Ask me why I'm saying it. I'm making some pretty strong allegations, right? Somebody calls me corrupt and I'm not corrupt. Guess what? I'm going to sue them. Go ahead and sue me. They're corrupt.
In fairness, they're in a bad place. They shouldn't be there, but they're in a bad place. I mean, in order for us to win our situation, that is, advocates who want families to come to a resolute where they can determine what's going on in their own families, we need to not have them be in court at all.
Right. So that's, of course, I tell people to stay out of it, but you can't help it sometimes. And you're in this court. Listen, every lawyer will tell you, what do they call Suffolk County, Chris? The wild East. Because they run around, they don't follow the laws, they do whatever they want to do. And these judges who were just nasty and just suck the money out of everybody, they love them. They love them. They breathe. That's why we have all these lawyers in Suffolk that are all doing so well.
I was surprised to hear that many of the judges don't have to even know what the pleadings are, that they can leave it to their clerk. They don't
Listen, I could tell you in my folder.
How many could
Chris,
they really
for my folder
to?
For Judge Blydenberg, I put in a motion one day, and it was a huge stack of motion. I did it myself. It took me days and days and hours, and I put in the motion, and you put it up to get signed by the judge, and they came back, I want to say 10 minutes later. A freaking speed reader couldn't have read the damn thing. Yeah. And the judge came out, the clerk came out and said, the judge read it and it's denied. Well, I went to the Suffolk County Files Bureau out in Riverhead, and I pulled out my file, and I look, and there's my motion. On the front page of the motion, stamped by the court, is a note from the judge's clerk, "I think we should just deny this."
Wow.
The judge never read it.
I think
we should just deny it, and the judge came out and denied it. The clerk didn't read it, and the judge didn't read it. Almost every lawyer will tell you the judges don't read the motions. They say, we'll stall them, and we'll bring them back every single month till somebody gives up, somebody does something stupid, and if we go to trial, then I'll deal with it at the trial, which is less than 5% of the time. These paperworks are a mess. You had a guest on your show, Jeff Deskovic, who filed appeals. He was in prison for a crime that he didn't commit, and he said there's evidence, and he kept putting in appeals. This is a person who's going to spend the rest of his life in jail, and they didn't read his goddamn appeals.
They take the paperwork, they look
They
at it.
stamped it denied.
Stamp it, just move it right on.
They did not. If one person would have looked at his papers, they would have seen, hey, you know what? Let's see if this guy's right.
Well, in his case, and maybe like in some others, wouldn't it be that if there was a possibility that he could have been innocent, wouldn't that destroy the decisions that they made prior to that?
And that's what happens.
So they don't want to hold themselves accountable.
Right, and I use that in family court because they, in criminal court, there's so many rules and there's fallbacks, and at the very least, there's a jury. So hopefully, you got one person who's not an idiot. In his case, there was an idiot, but hopefully, you get somebody who stands out. Even if all of them but one aren't, they'll do the right thing. How do we in family court put people in jail without a jury in this country?
Right.
And the person who's putting them in jail is not held accountable if they make a mistake? How do you take people's custody away without a jury?
People say that all judges have the same middle name, God.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate to even say it like that, but it was on the clip that.
But how important is this, Chris? These are
saw.
people that are. Listen, I could tell you, I lost my kids not because of custody, but because of alienation. I would love to go to jail for 6 months or a year than have what happened to me lose my children. Yet it was decided by a nasty Judge McNulty who didn't do her job, and a law guardian, Kathy Small, who was corrupt as well, didn't do their jobs. And I lost my kids because of this with no jury. And guess what? This Kathy Small comes back, you're right, I made a mistake.
Oh
well, goddamn it, I should be able to sue her.
Yeah.
She made a mistake and she's still in the
I can get
courtroom.
my kids back is what should be next.
Right, do the right thing. We'll fix the mistake.
Yeah.
Fix it, but they don't fix it, they move on.
What I was going to say about the trial by jury, I think it's important for us to have that opportunity to be heard by a jury of our peers, rather than give God, as we said,
Listen, we talk about
the only person we can talk to.
We talk about putting people in jail for 3 months or 6 months and they get a jury. Yeah, you're going to take away somebody's children, possibly remove them, your parental rights.
And that's okay.
And a judge who really has no litmus test because they were just pretty much politically appointed, usually they're failed attorneys. They're failed attorneys who don't make a good enough living. They just gave the judges a raise. I think they're going to make $190,000. They make their own hours. They get to have the prestige or a robe and get their full benefits for life. These are crappy lawyers. You know what? Pay them less money and have people do it who want to do it for the right reason because they want to make the system better.
The judges operate in a system that's more or less like socialism. Attorneys got to go out there and make a living. Is more like capitalism. Right. I always say the two don't merge too well unless there's a political affiliation, which we talked about. The system is built for them to move the process along and have the attorneys make money. That's about it. They want to keep you there. So every time that you're in a court and you're wondering how long it's going to take, well, it could take forever.
Yeah.
It could just, you just could be in there forever.
I think there's also two. There's also
depends on how much assets you have.
There's also two parts to it. Number one, they like you coming back because the attorneys all like it. The attorneys make the rules. Let me tell you, if this was in real life, they would say, you know what, judges, make a schedule. At 9 o'clock, 3 people come. At 10 o'clock, 3 people come. Right. At 11 o'clock, 3 people come. What do they do in Suffolk County? And they don't do this everywhere in the country. This is only in Long Island that they do. Some other place, but most places they don't. Nassau County Criminal Court, they don't do it. They have times that you come back.
Right.
And some of the judges in Nassau will actually have people stagger it out. In Suffolk County, what do? They
want
60
to make
people
you
on the calendar, everybody shows up at 9 o'clock. Number one, the attorneys love it. They don't complain. They think this is great.
They're getting paid by the hour.
Getting paid. Number two, what they hope, and I truly believe that part of the system is they know if they keep you there long enough. Listen, judges don't want to work. Most of them are lazy pieces of crap. They don't want to make a decision because then they have to do their homework and put their name on it. They want you to give up and settle. They push you to settle. If they keep you in that system long enough, coming back every month for 6 months, for a year, for 2 years, somebody is going to give up. You're going to run out of money. You're going to run out. You don't have the mental capacity. You suffer post-traumatic stress disorder or what we call legal abuse system. You can't do it anymore. They give it up. And then the judge doesn't have to make a decision.
Let's go back to a judge making a decision on his own about whether you're a good parent or not, or whether you're a responsible parent or not. Well, those things are important to make the decision on, but they have to do what? They have to call up forensic evaluators. They can't really make that decision.
But you know what, Chris? It makes me nervous because I've had people, in fact, I advocated for somebody, for a guy, and pardon my French, but the guy was an asshole. He really was. I couldn't stand him. And he lost his kids. And the judge ended up calling up a friend, and anyway, they said, well, you know this guy is an asshole. Why are you advocating for him? I said, you're right. But you know what? I don't want the courts and the judge determining who's an asshole, who's a jerk. Because you know what? That's very subjective. You know, I use the example, if a judge is not religious and one parent is religious and the other parent is not, and they go into court, they go, they're making my children go to church every Sunday and learn about Jesus and live by the God, and that judge doesn't believe in that, he's going to think the other person is a better parent, right? But if it's a judge who's a very religious judge, and this one same set of circumstances, the parent is saying, I want my kid to go to church every week, and I want them to be raised within the Catholic religion and not use birth control, that judge is going to say, guess what? This person's a better parent. You know, judges are human. They have their own feelings of what's good and what's not. I say shared custody.
Their own personal prejudices. They
Right.
live.
How
They
can you
live
not have it?
of
But I
course.
say go for shared custody. Everybody gets the kids 50-50. You know what? Let the kids decide. And you know what? Maybe there's not something wrong with having one parent be a jerk. Maybe that's part of the kids growing up process, that, you know, they'll be a jerk, and maybe they'll grow. Maybe they'll say, I don't want to be like my mother. I don't want to be like my father. But if they don't have that, if they're not exposed to them, they don't get that.
You know,
two parents.
in the system as badly as you know, you're making it sound, and I agree, it's a mess, and I agree with everything that you've said. They put new judges in the family court. You want to tell
How
me
crazy
why?
is that?
Well, tell me why.
Well, you know what they do? They throw. First of all, no judge honestly wants to be a family court. It's the armpit of the court, because nobody's. Listen, no matter what no matter what decision you make, someone's going to be pretty upset.
Right.
And you listen. The reality
It's
of
a
it is,
no-win situation.
you are taking away somebody's children. You're making these. It's a bad job. They would rather sit in the criminal court, because in the criminal court you can blame it on the jury. It's not your fault. It's the jury makes a decision.
You can be independent. You can
So
also make a case.
it's a lot easier.
You make a case better.
Right. You also follow the laws better in you know, criminal court. It's more prestigious. Being in family court is the worst. You know, the only step down is these support magistrates who are just pissed off that they're not a real judge. So they got a chip on their shoulder because they want to act like a judge, but they don't have the prestige of being a judge.
The point I was trying to make before, though, about the forensic evaluators is that a judge basically you're trained to be in this area where you're going to help make a decision for a family going forward. I mean, theoretically.
Right.
But, you know, it doesn't always work out that way. So what they do when they have to struggle with making that decision, they call in a forensic evaluator. Right. Try to help us with the description of the input of the forensic evaluator and why they have to call them in.
Right. Yeah, I mean, they do the forensic evaluation, and I guess it's better than not, because the judge sees you for 2 minutes, and we all know that a lot of judges don't even let you speak. And if your lawyer is aggressive, they may think you're aggressive. You know, they may never even hear you speak, and you get labeled. If the other person has a better lawyer than you get labeled. So a forensic can even it out. But what I've seen is that what the judges use the forensic for is they know that once the forensic's going to lean towards one person. So what happens is that person who gets the bad forensic, when they go to court, the lawyer says, look, Joe, you're not going to win because the forensic is against you.
They make him the judge, don't they?
So you better just settle.
I was always concerned about whether somebody would step in, and they do, as you know, for such a short period of time, and pretend to know all they can about the children.
I mean, listen, forensics, I think, do a better job than a judge, but for the most part, a lot of people are acting for a forensic, and I know when I speak to people.
In that short amount of time, though, I mean, really.
Well, you know, a forensic exam can go on for 7, 8 months. What I think the forensic would be good for is they should just come back and say, for my opinion, both parents are safe with the child, and the child would not be in danger with either one of them. That's what it should be. Not, this is a good parent, this is a bad parent. And quite honestly, Chris, how many times somebody's been married for 12, 13 years, the kids are 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, there's never been an allegation that the mother's a bad mother or the father's a bad father. All of a sudden they're getting divorced, and they go, he's a horrible father. Well, why'd you let him take the kid on vacation every year? Why'd you leave him home with him for all the time? Or she's a bad mother, but I let her raise the kid for all this time. I mean, that's ridiculous. I would say, hey, did you guys, in the last 10 years, did you ever bring up to anybody that did you ever call CPS? Did you ever have No, then you know what? Share the damn custody. Share and move on.
Well, because New York doesn't have a joint custody law,
it's a problem.
No judge can decide that. So
but
in order for that to happen,
them an out. The judge can say,
it isn't me giving them.
The judge can give a speech and can say, look, if I come in here, one of you is going to lose custody, and you may think you're going to win, and you may think you're going to win, but guess what? When you go to trial, it's a 50-50 chance.
Why wouldn't they? Well, why shouldn't they? Should actually say, that we could offer you the possibility of being together, making the decisions together and sharing the custody.
Well, that's what I think the judge should say. Look,
they never say
you
that.
have the option right now of giving 50-50 custody and
Right.
working it out. That is an option, and I'll sign the agreement, and you can walk out of here. But if you guys go to trial, I do not have
See,
the
there's
option
no incentive
for shared custody.
there's
The
no
judges
incentive
don't
for
say that.
No, there's no incentive for them. They can't keep the lawyers alive.
Right.
The
And
hourly rate will drop off. Their
Say
money
it on the
going
fir-
into
say
the
it on the
system will be
first time.
gone.
Say it on the first time. And let me tell you, for anybody watching the show,
They want to clear the calendar. It's a good way to do it.
but
right?
I've had them come to me and say, and a mother say, I know that moms always win custody in Suffolk County. And I say, first of all, they get custody probably 90% of the time. When they go to trial, it's not so high. It's probably 60-40, 70-30. But guess what? I don't care if it's 95%. Here's what I tell the mother. Do you want to take a 5% chance, a 5 in 100, that you are going to lose custody of your child and pay child support? Do you want to take that risk? Because guess what? It happens to people, and I'll give you the name of some nice women
Sure.
who lose. And a lot of times...
Well, we're in the role where we would find
Right.
them.
A lot of times, Chris, the women who lose custody, the husbands are abusive. Believe it or not, they're the abusive husbands who know how to fight in court.
Yeah.
They're the husband who has money. They're the
Right.
husband who has a connection.
Right.
And these husbands, oftentimes abusive husbands, win custody in court. It
Right,
happens.
more reasons to be concerned
So,
about how
so
the system works.
don't go to court thinking you're going to get custody. You never know what's going to come up in a custody trial.
Let's work a little bit towards, in the last couple of minutes we have here, about the recent death of Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia. Just real quick, we only have about 3 minutes left here. What concerns me about a decision, apparently, I mean, this, who knows, it could be conspiracy, but it seems a little odd that how he died and that nobody really checked on him. The forensic, the coroner's report was called in. He didn't actually
But I understand that he had some major illnesses. I'm not really so much of a conspiracy, but I wouldn't be utterly surprised.
We're not surprised, right?
You know, he's a powerful man.
But about the Supreme Court and how they make decisions, it always concerned me that it always had to be a 5-4 decision. If a decision for me is a clear decision, it's not 5-4.
Yeah, these are tough.
It's 8
yeah.
to it's
Well,
8-1.
Right. But these
it's
are tough.
9-0.
These are tough decisions. Remember who appointed them? You know, whether they were
because it's a political
Republican.
affiliation.
Right.
Back to what your point was a little while ago. Maybe it's a good idea to have a good, powerful layperson in that position, not a lawyer, not a judge, not a political affiliate.
Because you know what, lawyers, you know, and there's some great lawyers, obviously, but you know what, lawyers are a different class of person. You know, we say that they're a political class. You know, I don't know about you, but I can't charge $550 an hour for what I do for a living. So it puts you in a different, but it's a different mindset. You know, they're usually wealthier, they're usually more educated. It's not the average. I wouldn't want a jury full of lawyers. Let's put it that way. That's not my peers, right?
Okay, you win that one. Good idea. Okay, but we're in the dark most of the time. I'll go away from the Supreme Court thing because, in my opinion, I think that I always had a problem with that. Why does it always have to be 5-4? And the political aspect really drew me into maybe there's something else we can do about it. But going back to our issue with judges in general, is that why do litigants always say that, you know, I didn't know what was happening, I was caught by surprise, and they all do, and I did too. I was in the dark. I really didn't understand the process.
Well, they keep you in the dark because they pull them into the back and do these conferences all the time.
Backroom deals.
The backroom conferences.
So you can stop that too. Is another suggestion you're going to make, right?
Yeah.
You can do that by.
Well, I don't believe in backroom conferences, but I know a lot of times people say to their lawyer, "I will not let you do a backroom conference," and then they go do a conference because they say, "Look, the judge demanded it. There's nothing I can do about it."
The judge can demand a backroom. Can't you as a litigant?
Well, I think you have the right to, but you know, that goes back to then the lawyers will say, "Well, then the judge is going to hate you when he's going to stick it to you." But to me, why do you need backroom deals? Or you know what? If you want to have a conference, bring the litigants in. What are you hiding? It's like no cameras in the court. What are you hiding?
One of the we should have cameras. There's another thing we're suggesting too. By the way, we want cameras in the court, right?
But even you have these backroom conferences. They're off the record. There's no recordings going on. But yet, if you're represented pro se, they won't talk to you without a recording. Why is that? What do you have to hide?
Right. Cameras in the courtroom would solve a lot of
problems.
problems.
There's nothing to hide.
Well, we'd like to mediate, by the way, in case.
Well, that's the gist of the whole thing. Was do not subject yourself.
Just get yourself
to
out
the
of there
court
when you can.
if you can help it.
You know, years ago in England, they had the clergy would take care of these divorces and things like that. Would never get to a court. They wouldn't. They would always be counseled first, and a solution would be had. And maybe it was a little under the table. I don't know, but there was always some peaceful deal that could be made. So they didn't have a court.
Well, this adversary system is just a horrible way to do a divorce
system, right? Yeah, it's a mess. Any other final comment here before we wrap it up?
Well, just in regards, judges are human, but they need to regulate them. But let's talk about people say, what can we do to change? What you can do to change right now is anybody watching this, hold the judges accountable. Look into the investigation. How many names do you want? Reach out to the TV show. At the end of the show, you have an email address and a phone number on the end of the show. Mm-hmm. How many people can we both come up with that will tell you about corruption in Suffolk County Family Court and Supreme Court? We can give them a whole long list that nobody looks into. We had a Moreland Commission where they shut us off from speaking about it, but we put in written testimony. Nobody investigated it because they don't want it coming out. When they remove judges and they step down, in my case, 4 judges were removed that handled my divorce, never got reopened. Judge McNulty was forced to step down for being biased.
So you can get a judge recused.
Well, Judge McNulty was forced down for being biased, and Judge Himricks covered up for her, saying, "We let her step down." You know what? That's corruption. You have an obligation when you find out that a judge is doing something wrong, not to let them step down. You have to let the public know that we found a problem with this judge, and now we're going to have an independent board review your case to see if you were treated fairly. Start with that. That's what's fair.
We have another minute here. So step by step, we walk into a courtroom, and what we do is, do we hire an attorney? Do we not? Can we do this on our own?
I tell people start without an attorney just to save yourself the money. And here's my advice to people who come to me is, go through all the nonsense first. Show up for the next year and a half, every single month for your stupid conferences by yourself. Don't piss away $1,500 because they're bullshit. Right. Go to the end, and then when you get to a trial, you still have a little bit of money in the bank, then you hire a good lawyer to go to trial for you. Don't waste it on these conferences.
All right, good lawyer, you know what I'm going to say.
What's that?
What's a good lawyer?
Well,
and how does anybody know?
It is hard, but there are some some good lawyers out there. I recommend Robert Hiltzik all the time. I recommend Judith Powell all the time. She's an excellent lawyer. A lot of people use Mace Greenfield. Have been happy. There are some good lawyers out there, but you cannot do the trial by yourself. I don't care that they say that you're allowed to represent yourself. You could not go to trial.
It's tough in a custody decision.
You can't. How do you question yourself?
Right.
You can't do it. You really need a lawyer
for child
representing
support
you.
And for the ancillary issues of a divorce, you can handle those things on your own.
You can, because the result. Listen, you're fighting for custody. How do you not go? You need a lawyer.
You'd be ready for that.
You really. I believe you do need a lawyer to go in. And let me, just for the record, there's a law, this case law, that when you're fighting for custody or being presented with jail, the courts, if you can't afford it, must appoint you an attorney. There's case law on that. They say there's not in a custody. It is not true. The Supreme Court has said if you're in a custody battle where you're facing losing your children, if you can't afford it, you're entitled to representation.
Pro bono, as they say, right?
So, and listen, it's not always the best representation.
Yeah.
But even if you get, I tell people, if you get appointed lawyer for you, they're still held to the same standards. They'll tell you, "Oh, I'm not going to file this motion. I'm not going to say this to the judge." Do not put up with it. They have an obligation, once they're appointed to you, to represent you vigorously. And if they don't, document it.
Thanks very much, Gary. Thanks, Gary Jacobs. Societal and political trends are rapidly breaking down the family that once was the cornerstone of our great American culture. And at FIT, we know you cannot get this information on your own, so we'll bring it to your TV every single week. And of course, we always invite all opposing views. My name is Chris DiMaggio. Thank you for watching FIT TV, and we'll see you again next week. Thanks, Gary Jacobs.